The kind she used to say hurt too much to wear anywhere. The kind that weren't for dinner, they were for attention. She reached for her perfume. Not the everyday bottle she kept by the mirror, but the tiny one she used to reserve for our anniversaries. Sprayed it twice, laughed when it made me cough, and then she smirked. "You'll be fine, Curtis. Maybe you should call your little podcast buddies and whine to them instead of sulking." That one hit hard. She wasn't wrong. I've been recording voice memos lately. Not real podcasts, just clips. My voice rambling into the dark about how I don't know who I'm married to anymore. But she didn't know that, or I didn't think she did. I opened my mouth, then closed it. I didn't want to yell. I didn't want to cry. So instead I just said the line. 7 words. "Does he know you're married to me?" And just like that, boom, silence. You ever see someone's body language glitch, like their soul leaves for a second and tries to figure out what to do with the rest of them? That was her. She didn't blink, didn't swallow, just stood there with her wrist halfway to her neck, perfume still in hand. And then she put the bottle down, not slowly, not carefully, like she forgot how to hold it. I thought she'd shout, laugh, say it was a joke, blame it on wine, stress, the moon. But she didn't. She just said 3 words. "Curtis, not now." And that's when I knew it wasn't the first date. Not even the 3rd. That was the moment something inside me stopped pretending this was a rough patch and started wondering how long I'd been the background character in my own life. So I did what any weak, pitiful man with a spine made of pudding might do. I followed her to the door, not to beg, not to scream, but to ask something I never thought I'd say to my own wife. "Is his name Darren?" She dropped her purse, and everything after that got worse than I ever could have imagined. The sound her purse made when it hit the floor was weirdly hollow. Keys, lip gloss, a half-eaten granola bar. All of it spilled across the entryway like a broken confession. She didn't look at me. She crouched down fast, fumbling, trying to collect everything like nothing happened. I didn't help. I just stood there and watched her fingers shake while she stuffed everything back inside like she could pack away the truth too. "Curtis," she muttered, not even angry, just annoyed, like I had interrupted her during a show she didn't want to pause. "So, it is Darren?" I asked again, this time quieter. My throat felt dry. I didn't even know why I guessed that name. It just slipped out like my subconscious had been holding it under pressure and finally let it pop. Maybe it was the way she talked about her boss lately. Or maybe the way her phone always lit up when he emailed, even on weekends. She zipped her purse slowly. "Don't do this now," she whispered. Her voice was low, too low, like if she kept the volume down, the consequences would shrink with it. She didn't deny it, though, not once. I followed her to the car. I know, weak move, but I couldn't help it. Something inside me needed answers, even if they hurt. She unlocked the door and started to get in. "Just tell me one thing," I said. "Is this new? Or has this been happening while I was folding your laundry and meal prepping your tofu bowls?" She froze again. Not the dramatic kind of freeze. This one was small, just her hand lingering on the door handle longer than it should have. She slowly turned to me. "You really want to have this conversation in the driveway?" "Yes," I said, "before I turn into the punchline of a story you tell at wine night." She stared at me, and for the first time in years she looked older. Not tired, just worn down by pretending. "It started the night you forgot our anniversary," she finally said. I felt my stomach drop. That was 2 years ago. I was swamped with a client launch and brought home takeout and a lame apology card. But she had told me it was fine, that she understood. Apparently she hadn't. I didn't plan for it, she added. But he listened. He made me feel like I mattered. I said nothing. What was there to say? I was being replaced by a man who wore cufflinks and knew how to compliment her earrings. She got in the car, closed the door, and backed out of the driveway. I didn't try to stop her this time. I stood in my socks on the pavement, feeling every crack in the concrete beneath me. I thought that was the lowest point, but I hadn't checked the envelope she left on the kitchen counter. Not yet. And once I opened it, the real spiral would begin. The car disappeared down the street, and the silence that followed felt like it had waited. I stood there in the driveway like a man who'd just been handed a different life without warning. One I didn't ask for, one I didn't know how to live in. When I finally walked back into the house, the smell of microwave chicken pot pie still lingered, mixing with the sharpness of her perfume. The one she only used when she wanted to be remembered by someone. Someone else. The envelope was still sitting on the kitchen counter, cream-colored, unmarked. I hadn't noticed it before. I assumed it was junk mail or a bill, but now it sat there like a taunt. I picked it up with fingers that didn't feel like mine and slid my thumb under the flap. Inside was a single folded paper typed neat cold. It wasn't a letter. It was a printout of a hotel reservation. Her name was on it. One night, downtown. King Suite, paid in full. And under the receipt, something even worse. A note scribbled in her handwriting. Don't wait up. I need to feel something again. That line gutted me. Not because she said she needed to feel something, but because she didn't think I was something anymore. I wasn't even part of the conversation she was having with herself. I was just background noise. The guy who kept the fridge full and paid the internet bill so she could text him in comfort. I sat down at the table and stared at the note for an hour, maybe longer. I don't remember. What I do remember is how quiet the house was. Not peaceful quiet. Abandoned quiet. Like the kind of silence you only notice in empty buildings or after a storm rips through a place that used to be full of life. I should have called someone, my brother, my friend Clay from work, but I didn't. I couldn't imagine telling anyone that my wife, my Laura, had just walked out the door with a smirk and left behind a receipt for a night she was about to spend with someone else. Instead, I opened her laptop. It was still warm, still logged in. She never logged out. I never checked. I never had a reason to until now. I clicked into her email. The first thing I saw wasn't Darren's name. It wasn't even a message from him. It was a folder titled Curtis. I hesitated. My hand hovered over the trackpad. She made a folder with my name honored against every ounce of pride I had left. I opened it, and what I found inside wasn't hate mail. It wasn't love notes either. It was screenshots, hundreds of them, all of me. At first I thought it was some weird digital scrapbook, but the moment I clicked into the folder labeled Curtis, I realized this wasn't sentimental. It was surveillance. Screenshots of text messages I'd sent her, snippets of our arguments, voice memos I didn't even remember recording. One file had the caption, Tuesday night, classic guilt trip meltdown. Another read, Curtis pretending to care. Oh, she had been documenting me, curating my weakness like it was a gallery exhibit. My worst moments preserved with timestamps and passive-aggressive file names. I found a clip of me crying in the living room last December. I was holding a blanket she crocheted before we got married that night. I thought she had gone to bed early. Apparently not. She was recording from the hallway. I felt sick, literally nauseous, like my stomach had swallowed gravel. Why would she do this? Why keep a digital museum of my emotional breakdowns? What was she saving them for? And then I saw a folder inside the folder titled Future Insurance. I clicked. Inside were pictures I didn't even know existed. Me pacing outside the therapist's office. Me sending long texts, all captured through screenshots she took before responding with one-word replies. Me looking confused, defeated, tired, all compiled in a neat little folder like I was some case study in emotional failure. One document stood out. A Word file, the title, Separation Narrative Draft. My heart started pounding. My hands were sweating, but I kept going. I opened it. The first paragraph hit me like a punch to the ribs. Curtis is emotionally unstable. I've tried for years to help him, but his moods have grown erratic. I've documented everything for my own protection. It continued with details, twisted versions of events, arguments where I apologized, painted as threats, nights I begged her to talk to me, reframed as manipulation. The whole thing was written like a legal defense. That's when it dawned on me. She wasn't just cheating. She was building a narrative, one where I was the problem. A story she could hand to a lawyer or her family, or worse, our friends, to justify walking away without looking like the villain. I stared at the screen trying to make sense of how long this had been in motion, how much of our marriage had been real and how much was just waiting to be weaponized. I should have closed the laptop, but instead I opened her browser history. That's when I saw the searches. How to hide money before divorce. Moving out while spouse is asleep. Fake emotional abuse journal examples. She wasn't planning to leave me. She was planning to bury me first. I sat there staring at the browser history like it was a blueprint for my own destruction. Every search was colder than the last. How to trigger a spouse into rage. Recording fights legally. Can you claim mental instability without a diagnosis? She had gone full war mode while I was busy meal planning and trying to remember our first date anniversary. The laptop fan whirred like it knew it was overheating from secrets. I closed the browser. I didn't want to see more. Couldn't, but my body wouldn't move. It was like I was pinned to the chair by invisible hands. My own guilt, my own stupidity, maybe both. She had been planning this for months, possibly longer. And I had just been trying to keep things together with discount flowers and passive apologies. And then the printer in the hallway woke up. It buzzed to life all on its own like something out of a horror movie. I had forgotten we were still connected to CloudPrint. I stood up slowly, walked down the hall, and pulled the page from the tray. It was a legal draft, not a finalized document, just a list of bullet points. Curtis shows signs of chronic paranoia. Curtis is emotionally reactive. See attached videos. Curtis has created a hostile domestic environment. I laughed out loud. It wasn't a funny laugh. It was the sound of someone coming undone. This wasn't a breakup. This was an erasure. She wasn't trying to walk away clean. She was trying to make sure I didn't get to stand when the dust settled. I went back to the kitchen and stared at her ring, still sitting exactly where she'd left it, gleaming in the overhead light like nothing had changed. But everything had. I had the next few hours blurred. I paced, I muttered. I deleted her files, all of them, folder after folder. Trash, empty trash, gone. If she was going to lie about who I was, she wouldn't get to keep her fake evidence. But that didn't make me feel better. It made me feel worse, because I wasn't just deleting her betrayal. I was deleting the last pieces of someone I used to love. Around 11 p.m., her phone lit up on the side table. She had forgotten it. One notification, a message preview. Darren, did you give him the unstable story yet? I stared at the screen, hands trembling. The preview vanished. I didn't unlock it. I didn't need to. She wasn't just sleeping with someone else. She was rehearsing a script with him together. They were writing me out of my own life, one line at a time. I stood there in the dim hallway, staring at her phone like it had just whispered my eulogy. Darren's message kept echoing in my head. Did you give him the unstable story yet? It wasn't just confirmation of their affair. It was confirmation that I wasn't even a man to them anymore. I was a setup, a problem to be framed, written off, and disposed of neatly. I didn't unlock the phone. I could have. Her passcode hadn't changed in years. Still our wedding date. That part almost made me laugh. She changed everything else, but not that. Maybe because she knew I'd never snoop. Not until tonight. And even now I hesitated. I had already seen enough. Her browser history had peeled back one layer. The laptop folder had ripped the skin off, but this phone, that was her bloodstream. The raw stuff. I finally opened it. The texts weren't just cold, they were rehearsed. Laura and Darren had entire back and forths planning which words to use on me. If he starts crying, just say you feel unsafe. If he begs, stay quiet. Silence will make him spiral. You can say you've been journaling his episodes. Episodes. They were making me sound like some deranged sitcom character unraveling in front of a live audience. There were even drafts, messages she'd sent him for approval. Is this dramatic enough? She asked once, followed by a screenshot of a text she planned to send me. Curtis, I can't do this anymore. I need peace. You've made home feel like a battlefield. Darren responded with a thumbs-up emoji. I dropped the phone like it had burned me. My whole body felt electric, but not in the alive way, in the raw wire frayed cord about to snap way. I walked to the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror. My face looked older than I remembered. Pale, tired, the kind of tired that sleep can't fix. What got me most wasn't the cheating. It wasn't even the planned exit. It was that she hadn't just stopped loving me. She had come to despise me. Piece by piece, lie by lie, she had rewritten who I was, and somehow I had let her. I walked back into the living room and picked up the envelope again. I flipped it over. That's when I noticed something I'd missed before. A second slip of paper wedged deep in the corner. This one wasn't typed. It was handwritten and addressed to Darren. I held the slip of paper in my hand like it was radioactive. It was folded twice tight with her looping cursive scrolled on the outside. Darren. That's all it said. No heart, no nickname, no cute inside joke. Just his name like a label on a storage box. I stared at it for what felt like hours before finally unfolding it. It wasn't a love letter. It was a list, numbered. I read it once, and then again slower, each line carved into my gut deeper than the last. He doesn't ask questions. That's why it works. No history, no guilt. He didn't see me at my worst. He's fun for now. I don't owe him anything. I wouldn't choose him if life actually felt right. That last line hit me like a tire iron to the ribs. I sat down at the kitchen table and read the list again, whispering it this time, like somehow reading it aloud would make it feel less insane. This wasn't just about me. It wasn't just betrayal. It was manipulation in both directions. She was cheating on me with a man she didn't even love and gaslighting both of us the entire time. She was playing me like a fragile shell and treating him like an escape route with no brakes. The phone buzzed again. Darren, let me know if he freaks out. I'm 5 minutes away. So, that was the plan. She'd rile me up, play the victim, and he'd show up as her savior. Walk in like a knight. Protect her from the fragile wreck of a man she painted me to be. That's why she wore the perfume. That's why she dropped the line about the date. She wanted me to crack, to yell, to break, so she could leave without guilt. And I almost did. I almost gave her the performance she wrote for me. But now I saw the whole script, the stage lights, the cues, and I was done playing my part. I carefully placed the letter back inside the envelope and resealed it. Then I grabbed her phone, opened the camera, and snapped a photo of the note. All of it. Every word. Then I screenshotted her texts, her browser history, her fake drafts. I didn't know what I'd do with them yet, but I knew one thing. She wasn't walking out of this untouched, and neither was Darren. I turned off the phone and placed it exactly where she left it. Then I cleaned the kitchen, folded her jacket, and waited. When her car pulled into the driveway an hour later, I was ready. She walked through the door smiling until she saw my face. I handed her the envelope. She took it slowly. Her expression didn't crack right away, but by the time she unfolded it and saw what I left inside instead, her face drained of color, and all she said was, "Where did you find this?" She stood there gripping the envelope like it might start burning in her hands. Her eyes flicked between the page and my face, searching for something to say, but there was nothing left. I watched her read her own words, the list she wrote for Darren, and I didn't flinch. For the first time in months, maybe years, I didn't feel small in my own house. I didn't feel like the weak one. I just felt done. She finally looked up. "You went through my things." "Don't you dare," I said, calm as ice. "You staged a breakdown I hadn't even had yet. You wrote a narrative where I'm dangerous. You rehearsed lies like they were bedtime stories. And now you're upset. I opened the drawer you left wide open." She tried to pivot like she always did. "Curtis, we can still talk about this." "You're being reactive." "No," I said for once. "I'm being deliberate." I slid her phone across the counter. The screen lit up with the photo of her note, then the screenshots, then the draft emails. I forwarded everything to myself and to someone else, just in case you get cute with your little unstable storyline. Her mouth opened, but I cut her off. I'm not yelling, I'm not throwing things, I'm not falling apart. That's the part you didn't prepare for, Laura. You built your story expecting me to break, but I'm not broken. You are. She stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. "You don't have to leave tonight," I said, grabbing my coat, because I already did. I walked past her out the door, out of the house I spent 9 years making feel like home. I didn't slam anything. I didn't leave a note. I left the silence behind, and somehow that felt louder than anything I could have said. A week later, the divorce papers were signed peacefully, clean, no dramatic ending. No courtroom theater, just the truth, documented and delivered before she had a chance to rewrite it. As for me, I'm doing better. I'm not saying I figured everything out. I still wake up sometimes wondering if I miss signs I should have caught sooner. But I've started living again without walking on eggshells. And strangely, I've started recording voice notes again, not to spiral, just to remember who I am.